Please welcome now Mr. Tsymbalenko. You all know he is an associate professor at the Institute of Journalism in Kyiv and an experienced scholar as well as media trainer who collaborates with NGOs worldwide to develop media education and help audiences to analyze the news. Today, he will analyze whether media literacy can oppose propaganda. So please welcome Mr. Tsymbalenko. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Lena, for the introduction. I will not show any presentation, but I will talk a lot. I will try to talk slowly to give ability to translate my maybe sometimes difficult speech. Well, despite the fact that Ukraine became independent, the strong influence of the Soviet Union's propaganda machine continued to operate for a long time. I'm afraid it is still valid. The tradition of using propaganda to achieve desired political goals is still widespread today. Our country is no exception. But is propaganda really terrible and bad? That should be considered propaganda. I don't want to turn on teacher mode, but I would like to emphasize the main points. The classic definition of propaganda is the dissemination of information in order to influence the consequences and mood of the masses to call for the certain actions. Currently, these actions are divided into positive and negative. A positive result is advertising and public relations. These concepts have acquired their own names, although they completely fall under the definition of propaganda. But this is already white or holy propaganda. The negative result is a call for committing crime, discrimination, deception. The Soviet school of propaganda provided a wide range of tools for manipulation. Naturally, not only Soviet Union armed modern Ukrainian propagandists, but the main force still belonged to it. Among the popular methods of propaganda in Ukraine, we witness agitation, persuasion, the principle of repetition, the principle of primary information advantage, the principle of non-disagreement, the principle of ensuring trust in the source information, creating an image of objectivity, independence and alternativeness, hooking, hanging labels, shining generalization, intimidation, hooking aggressive emotional fears. A huge problem is that journalists use propaganda in their stories. In addition to powerful propaganda training of media workers, Ukraine inherited blind trust in television from the Soviet Union. And unfortunately, this is already a genetic defect. Moreover, not only news broadcasts, but also various talk shows, pseudo-reality shows, political battles are accepted as the absolutely truth. In fact, there is a paradox. The level of Ukrainians' trust to the traditional media is critically low, but the same
низкий, но в то же самое время любая информация из источника, похожего на СМИ,
insider information. As my colleague Katerina Sokolova mentioned yesterday, the level of trust to online sources is more than 60%. And this is a huge problem to teach people to analyze information. That is news, what is entertainment, what is author's personal opinion. There is more and more information every day, and it is very simple to access. It is accessible on all possible channels. Over the past 10 years, and especially now, during the quarantine, we gain experience with the help of media. And for achieving propaganda goals, this is an ideal situation, since the greater the gap between the real experience of people and the information which they receive, the more distortion and impulses this information contains. There is no way to check. In order to avoid information distortion in Ukraine, since the mid of 90s, various trainings have been conducted for media leaders, journalists, students, journalists. They were taught to adhere to journalistic standards, not to allow information distortion in the news, to certainly separate information from advertising. Amendments were initiated and made to the laws of Ukraine, which regulate media activities. The initiatives of public organizations were supported by various foreign foundations. There were a lot of studies and educational trips to various countries to study the experience of journalists working in compliance with standards. For a long time, I worked in a public organization that was engaged in the professional development of journalists. I know how it happens. And then I came to the university. At the university journalism, students are trained to comply with the standards. It's really so. Unfortunately, this model doesn't work in Ukraine. An ideally trained journalist cannot work in Ukraine in full compliance with journalistic standards. Such journalists usually work for free. They can create such media products, but there is another drawback in this model. A person needs to eat, dress, pay bills, have vacation. They work without salary, which leaves no time for you to earn money somewhere else is not an opinion here. Journalistic trainings continued about 15 years and didn't bring any desired result. The media constantly featured manipulative products. Public organizations and foundations that supported and financed them began to actively revise their activities in this direction. A huge catalyst in this direction was the war in Donbas in 2018. The massive appearance of fake information and propaganda in media could not be stopped. And the solution in this situation was the one thing: to teach people, ideally all people in Ukraine, all Ukrainians, to distinguish propaganda, manipulation, and fakes. In other words, to teach media literacy. At the same time, various public organizations launched media education trainings lasting from 1 day to a week. Opinion leaders were selected in different fields: education, social work, small business, utilities, to teach them media literacy. Opinion leaders conveyed the information obtained during the trainings to their target group, whose spreading the knowledge became viral. The most ambitious project was the training of media literacy trainers. Ukraine was divided into 14 regions, and 2 trainings were conducted in each region. In some regions, 3 trainings were held. A total of 32 trainings. As a result of this action, 960 trainers were trained, who conducted their own trainings for more than 57,000 people during the year. It's approximately 1.5% of all population in Ukraine. Of course, it's less, but still. This project programs, for this project, programs, materials, examples, and tasks, as well as special trainings manual were developed. This is the most successful media literacy project in Ukraine. In addition to activity of public organizations, the Ministry of Education of Ukraine was involved in the process of media education. The result of cooperation was the inclusion of a media education course into school curricula. First at the selective level and then as a compulsory course. The ministry has identified 326 basic schools where these programs were launched. It was not possible to launch a media literacy course in all schools in Ukraine because of technical resources, trained staff, and the willingness of school leaders to change are required. Today, there are many training courses, literature, online media education platforms that do we want to get as a result. Media literacy as the result of media education gives a person to consumer of media product the ability to distinguish between high quality products from low quality ones. If all the products in the media are of poor quality, then media literacy people can select the content which can be trusted, easily detect facts and deceptions. They recognize the elements of propaganda and do not accept them. The communication effect of propaganda will not be achieved to the extent that the creators of the content expect. There will be a clear separation of entertainment and news information content. The ideal situation is that media that do not comply with journalistic standards in news programs will not receive the expected ratings. This will lead to a decrease in the advertising budget and the disappearance of media that do not comply with standards. The situation is ideal and almost unrealistic in Ukraine media because Ukrainian media exist solely on do not exist solely on advertising or subscription. They get subsidies from the media owners. As Vladimir Daniluk said yesterday, all media in Ukraine belong to the large business structures which runs by politicians. We called them oligarchs. For their purpose, media and propaganda are used as a part of media policies. Nevertheless, it is the model of increasing media literacy that is most effective in fight against propaganda. That's all from me for today, and if you have questions, I will answer with pleasure.
Thank you very much. This was a wonderful presentation. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Tsymbalenko?
I think everything is clear. That's why no questions. Or everything was ununderstanding.
No, I think everything was very clear, but I mean, it's a unique situation that we can ask you questions now, so maybe there
I really like...
Ну, если можно, я дополню.
Oh, yeah, please.
Can I add something? Sure. Well, Yevgeny was saying a lot about this topic, but our propaganda people in Ukraine invented some know-how, and we can create some informational reason that is needed, and then they would cover it in a biased way. For instance, last year, Poroshenko, then president of Ukraine, was supposed to go to Lutsk, a small city, and just at the eve of his visit, in the center of the town, people just, took a pig for a walk just 1 hour before he was supposed to visit. So this appearance of the pig at the same place just 1 hour before his visit was quite interesting for the journalist, and it was shown in the appropriate light. And tomorrow we're expecting a new president coming, Zelensky. So his opponents are spreading information that he's coming to open a fountain. So you understand, the president of a big country, and he would come just to kind of open this small fountain in a small town, and everybody's kind of discussing it. So it's kind of a fake reason for him to come that was created. So it's a whole system, whole machinery, and people are discussing it because it's kind of funny. So it's quite effective.
Thank you very much for this comment. Do you want to add something, Mr. Tsymbalenko, to Mr. Daniluk?
Yeah, I just want to say that unfortunately in Ukraine, media not work as business. That's why our media are full of propaganda, manipulation, and other bad things. And I really like media system in Germany, where media works like business. If media told lie, they will not work because no one will use this media and ratings will be decreased. And as a result, this media will not work at all. And this is a dream media system for Ukraine.
Well, I discussed it also with Dr. Wolfgang Ressmann during one of the breaks today, that there are many good things about the German system, but I also feel like it's also worth it to mention some of the, maybe more negative sides on it, and also like to maybe not to be so happy with yourself. So I think we discussed that maybe the German press is maybe too too satisfied with how it works. So maybe you should always be critical to that it can stay the way it is right now, maybe.
You're right, Lena. I think this is right, because we also have a lot of problems in the German media system. It was mentioned yesterday. It's the economical pressure of the newspapers. That's a big problem. I think comparable to Ukraine, what we discussed. That the local commercial market is going down, more and more down, and the commercials are going to the online sector, so that the future of the press will be a cross media system of news, whatever that means. And this is a big problem. We also, what we discussed in Ukraine in our public radio TV system, is that that our two big programs, the first and the second, are changed the schemata of political broadcasts much more to later hours. And they shortened political magazines from 45 minutes to 30 minutes, and it is broadcast later. On the other side, and they are arguing, okay, so we are reaching a mass audience, or much greater audience than we would reach with the old program. And therefore, we have special interest channels like ZDF Info, like Phoenix channel, which is broadcasting a lot of live events and so on. But the special channels do not reach a big audience. So the end to depoliticize, don't know whether it's the right expression, I hope so, the content of our public media system is one problem. In the private media system, politics plays no role, really, very, very seldom. There are political magazines or political discussions and so on that's absolutely commercial. And these are also questions we have to discuss in the German media system. One last question also to Yevhen and to Vladimir. We started the project 5 years ago, shortly after Maidan. And what do you think are the main changes in Ukrainian media in the last 5 years?
Of course, Ukrainian media going to be more free and more powerful because the low level of support of media is increased. It's a fact.
There was one question from the audience. I'm going to read it out loud for you, Mr. Tsymbalenko. Why do you think we do not have a similar system like in Germany? Because Ukrainian audiences can forgive misinformation?
We do not have the same media system because subscription in Ukraine are not supported by people. We will not pay for media. We just see TV channels for free or pay not for content, but for access to some services to see TV, and using online media that is free too. And of course, Ukrainian people can divide fakes, misinformation, lie, propaganda, and manipulation, but the majority is trust to these manipulations and propaganda, and this is a very bad situation because it's faster people will trust to lie than in truth, and do not want to find the facts. The simple way to found the propaganda or manipulation, it's try to find the facts in the journalistic material. If no facts, this is not true.
Thank you very much for this answer. Alina, our participant Alina, also has another question for you. In your opinion, will the new laws on media and on disinformation in Ukraine reduce the level of propaganda?
As we know, all media in Ukraine belong some media holdings or media owners. That's why the main goal of these owners to help to make successful business of these owners. That's why they do not interest in spreading truth or truthful information, truthful news. This is a problem. Ukrainian audience want to get the real truthful news, but can't get it. And audience try to find the truthful news using online media and start to believe in different bloggers, and politicians and all persons, but it very close connected with their own wishes. If the information from some blogger the same as my wishes, I will believe it. And this is the problem.
So thank you very much, Mr. Tsymbalenko, for concluding our third conference day.